Obituary for a legend. America's greatest sports hero dies. August 16th, 1948. America has had its share of legendary sports heroes. Men such as baseball's Ty Cobb, boxing's Jack Dempsey, the football star Red Grange, and the all-around athlete Jim Thorpe. Those men are the royalty of American sports. The princes, if you will. But the king is no longer with us. He has died at the age of 53. His name, Babe Ruth.
Gets it out deep, and Havlicek steals it. Over the stand goal. Havlicek stole the ball.
Starr begins the count. Takes the snap. He's got the quarterback thinking he's in for the touchdown. The Green Bay Packers are going to be world champions.
Affirmed under a left-hand whip. Alliar on the outside driving. Affirmed to Alliar. Heads apart.
Here's the pitch by Downing. Swinging. There's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
Obituary continued. Babe Ruth is dead. They all came to bid him farewell. His peers, the young, the curious. For Babe Ruth epitomized the American dream. A poor kid with nothing but talent who rose to the highest of heights. Everything about Ruth was, well, Ruthian.
He wanted to seize the day, you know, the Latin phrase, carpe diem, seize the day. Everything out of every day. The most fun, the most excitement. Day off, let's go to the racetrack. Let's bet $1,500 on the first 3 races. Ah, there's a pretty lady over there. I wonder if she's free. How would she like to meet the great Babe? And though he didn't live a long life, and he didn't live 70 years and 10, from the time he came into his own in baseball, he didn't miss very much.
Babe Ruth. Can history possibly exaggerate the feats of a man who in life seemed superhuman? His home runs soared into the skies like rocket ships. With his power, Babe Ruth single-handedly changed the game of baseball. And Ruth's feats off the field were just as extraordinary. He lived life 24 hours a day. Children were one of Babe Ruth's many passions. Ruth was unusually fond of youngsters, and there was a reason for his behavior. Babe Ruth grew up a poor boy by the docks in Baltimore, one of 8 children. His father, George Herman Ruth Sr., owned a bar there. Babe's parents had trouble controlling their incorrigible youngster and sent him to reform school. At the school, Babe took up baseball, a welcome diversion for a child who always seemed to get himself into trouble.
He never chewed tobacco till he was 6. He never had a drink till he was 7. He stole whatever loose change was around the house on his own testimony. And Ruth said once, I was a bad kid.
When Babe Ruth tamed his immense energies and directed them toward baseball, he became an immediate standout. So, the Boston Red Sox drafted Babe as a left-handed pitcher in 1914. By 1918, Babe had set a World Series record by pitching 29 2/3 straight scoreless innings. That same year, the Red Sox decided to play Babe in right field on his off days so that the Babe's hitting talent would not be wasted. The results were dramatic.
Ruth's 2 homers beat Cleveland. Clears bases in ninth with second circuit run. Babe Ruth pouts 2 more home runs. Boston slugger bats Red Sox. Ruth hits out another homer. Babe gets 23rd Circuit smack. Ruth makes new home run record. Boston slugger gets his 26th drive.
In 1919, Babe Ruth created new excitement in baseball by hitting 29 home runs, a record. He clearly stood alone as the game's most electrifying player, hitting balls that seemed to defy gravity.
One day we was in St. Louis. I was on first base, and he hit a ball. If you ever been in that ballpark, it was right there on Grand Avenue. He hit a ball clean across Grand Avenue, clean on top of the houses, across the street, and it bounded off the back end of them houses. I saw it. I was on first base, and I stopped and looked at the ball. It was the farthest ball I ever saw.
Meanwhile, Boston Red Sox owner Harry Frazee was facing a financial crisis. Frazee understood that Babe Ruth was his most precious asset. Sell baseball's home run king to another ball club? Frazee pondered that question at the end of the season. The year was 1920. Babe Ruth obituary continued, page 2. In 1920, Boston Red Sox owner Harry Frazee made history. Facing bankruptcy, Frazee sold Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees for a reported $150,000. After donning the Yankee uniform, Ruth proceeded to show the sports world that Harry Frazee had made the worst deal in baseball history. In 1920, Babe Ruth hit 54 home runs, smashing his own record of 29. Ruth then returned the next year to hit a mind-boggling 59 home runs. By this time, baseball had become the Babe Ruth show.
In New York, why, it just revolutionized their attendance. They came to see him, and all newspapers carried headlines about the Babe. That's it. See, the newspapers carried, if he hit a home run, it never said how the game come out in the lineup at all. The headline is all Babe hits a home run. So he got that publicity and plenty of it, and he earned it, too. See, Babe was natural. He was a showman just naturally. He was just born in him, that's all. He's just a natural showman.
When Ruth came along with those 54 home runs in 1920 and 59 in 1921, the attention focused on the action of one George Herman Ruth, and he strode through the 20s like a colossus. The 20s are a magic time in our memory, and probably were when if you were alive then. And you think of the names. There was Red Grange in football. There was Bobby Jones in golf. There was Big Bill Tilden in tennis. There was Jack Dempsey in boxing. There was the great jockey Earl Sandy, and the poem that went, "Give me a handy guy like Sandy driving a long shot home." But of all of these larger-than-life figures, Ruth was the greatest by far. When I was a kid, my father would say to me, Babe Ruth striking out with that mighty swing was more exciting than watching somebody else happen to hit a home run.
Ruth's antics off the field were equally exciting to the dismay of those who had the fortune and misfortune of managing him. Manager Miller Huggins discovered that when you took Ruth, you took the whole man. Thus, the showmanship and excess which defined Ruth on the field also defined him off the field.
When Miller Huggins, who was a small man, perhaps 5'4", who was managing the Yankees, tried to discipline Ruth on a train in the days when ball clubs traveled by train, Ruth responded to the discipline by walking to the caboose, dragging Miller along with him, and holding Miller at arm's length off the back edge of a speeding train. When Miller recovered his poise and his nerve, he fined Ruth $5,000. There's some question as to whether that was ever collected by the Yankees. But discipline Ruth and you get held off a speeding train. He knew who he was. He knew that he was Babe Ruth. He knew he put the people in the park. He knew that he was the emperor of American baseball. And if you try to say, Babe, I think you ought to go to bed a little earlier, and maybe that young lady will wait until the season is over, as I say, you'll get held off the end of a speeding train and told to go to hell.
Babe Ruth's disrespect for authority reached all the way to the commissioner's office. Judge Landis, in 1921, barred all players from barnstorming in the off-season. Ruth, however, kept right on barnstorming. The result, a 2-month suspension. After missing 39 games, Ruth still managed to blast 35 home runs. He led the Yankees into the 22 series against the Giants. The Yanks lost in 4 straight. The next year, a new stadium was built in the Bronx. Writer Fred Lieb of the New York Evening Telegram called it the house that Ruth built. Thousands of paying customers flocked there to see only one man. Ruth did not disappoint his followers. In 1923, he hit .393 with 41 home runs. Babe Ruth had become the toast of New York.
I never will forget that. You see, in New York, there's always a lot of governors and mayors from different towns coming into there and see the Yankees and see Babe Ruth and want to meet him. That's happening every day. Well, this one time, Bill Dickey told Babe, he said, now the governor of Arkansas is going to be here tomorrow, and I want you to meet him. And Babe says, well, that's fine. So here comes the governor of Arkansas. I'm sorry I don't remember his name. But he came down there to the bench. They let him down to the bench. And Bill introduced him to Babe. And do you know what Babe said to the governor of Arkansas? Hello, kid. Glad to meet you. That is his remark. It wasn't glad to know you, governor, or nothing like that. Hello, kid. Glad to know you. Dickie likely fell through a hole. It embarrassed him, see, but that was Babe. That's Babe now.
Babe Ruth obituary, page 3. The legend of Babe Ruth extended beyond the confines of the ball field. Babe was known to consume enormous quantities of ale, but he was usually ready the next day when the umpire yelled, play ball.
I got a good story of him in Chicago. We had our hitting practice, and Ruth hadn't showed up. But McCarthy was sitting on the bench. Joe was sitting over there biting his fingernails, had his arm folded. So he said to me, called me, said, say, Joe, come here. I went over there, and he said, have you seen the Babe? I said, no, I haven't seen him since yesterday's ball game. He says, are you going in the clubhouse? I said, yeah. He said, see if he's in there. So I run across the field and down through the runway and up into the clubhouse. And sure enough, there sat Babe on his little old stool over there in front of his locker. He had his cap on, had his sweatshirt on, had his trousers on. If he'd pulled them up, the zipper would have been in the back. And I said to him, I said, hurry up, Babe. I said, the ball game's about to start. He said, oh, Babe will be out there. So he was sitting there on the bench, and it was time to hit. I reckon somebody punched him. Ruth reached over and got one bat, and he used it as a walking stick. And he walked up to the plate with that one bat. And so helped me, the first ball pitched, I forgot who was pitching, but the first ball pitched, he hit it a half a mile over the top of the stands. He hit it clean out of the ballpark. He didn't hit in the stand. So to make a long story short, he got 2 home runs, a triple, and 2 doubles. So I'll never forget if I live to be 100 years old. McCarthy was sitting in the middle. I was sitting on my little old stool. Fletcher was sitting on, we was resting. So McCarthy looked around at me and he says, what are you gonna do with a son of a gun like that? I said, get that booger tight every day, every day.
Drinking was only one of Ruth's vices, however. There was the time in 1925 when a delirious Babe collapsed in a train station, reportedly with the flu. His manager, Miller Huggins, had another explanation. Babe's mammoth appetite had done him in. Too many hot dogs. The Babe loved hot dogs. The years ensued, and so did the legends. In the 1926 World Series, Ruth set a new standard. 3 home runs in a series game. It was later reported that Ruth had visited a sick boy in the hospital before the game, promising to hit the youngster a home run. That deed accomplished, the boy reportedly recovered. These were baseball's golden years. In 1927, the baseball world saw the emergence of a Yankee team some consider the finest in history. That year, the Sultan of SWAT's majestic swing landed his name in the record books yet again.
There's a swing
A tremendous blast into the right field bleacher.
And then the coup de grace, the 1932 World Series. Yankees versus Cubs. Game 3, Charlie Root on the mound for the Cubs. In the 4th inning, Babe Ruth was at the plate. Root got 2 strikes on Babe. What then occurred remains the subject of legend. Some say Babe Ruth pointed to center field as if predicting a home run there. Others say he did no such thing.
The question is, did he really do it? Well, I talked to a lot of Yankees who played with him. I talked to 10 and I got 11 versions. Yes, he did it. No, he didn't do it.
Some of them say he did and some of them say he didn't. But I was in the ball game and I saw it all, saw every bit of it. Don't let anybody tell you that he did not point to the fence. He did.
Well, now listen, here's what happened. The Cubs were out on the edge of their bench riding Babe. I mean, they rode him in New York and they rode him in Chicago about the Koenig deal. They was really riding the Babe. Ruth was pitching. So Babe comes up to the plate. He had 2 strikes on him, and he steps out of the box and holds up 2 fingers.
So when they got 2 strikes, Ruth backed out of that box. And with his bat in his left hand, and with them 2 fingers, he just like a fella, just pointed just like that to center field. Well, on the next pitch, I got a mental picture right now.
Ruth had done it. He had done it. A home run to center field. But still, the question lingers. Did Babe Ruth really call his shot?
Some stories, you can find 40 versions, but the stories are marvelous. And let them roll on. And, you don't always need truth. You don't always need absolute accuracy. Let the story be. Ruth called his shot. I'm pleased with that.
Well, I was this one particular time when I went to bat, Charlie Root was pitching. And I looked out at center field and I floored it. I said, I'm going to hit the next pitch ball right past the flagpole.
Babe Ruth obituary continued. Page 4. Babe Ruth retired from baseball in 1935. After retirement, Babe unsuccessfully sought the Yankees' managing job. Thereafter, he drifted from the scene, virtually ignored until April 27, 1947, when the Yankees honored their hero. Ruth's voice was barely audible as he addressed his fans. He was dying from throat cancer.
Many lovely things said about me, and I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to thank everybody.
He was in a class by himself. As far as his ability, as far as I know, there's nobody else could do the things that Babe could do, and do them when he could do them and how he did them. He could do it by himself. He was a legend.
Why, sure he's a legend. You never find another like him. Have you ever seen a man in baseball since he can come close to him as a personality? No, I never have and never will.
I remember a day I spent in a Boston saloon with Jumping Joe Dugan, called Jumping Joe because he jumped some contracts, who was Babe Ruth's roommate. And we had a long talk, and I asked the same question of Jumping Joe Dugan: how could you sum him up? And then in a book I wrote, I set down what Jumping Joe Dugan told me. He said, to understand him, you had to understand this: he wasn't human. He was an animal. No human could have done the things he did, lived the way he did, and been that kind of ball player. Cobb, could he pitch? Speaker, the rest, I saw them. There was never anybody close. When you figure the things he did, and the way he lived and the way he played, you got to figure he was more than an animal even. There never was anyone like him. And then in his old man's voice, Joe Dugan said, he was a god.
Today, April 16th, 1948, a man has died, and a legend has been born.